Hey guys, it's me, that one guy that you secretly think is gay, but now it might be too late unlimited. And I'm here to tackle my favorite classic master deck when I was a young adolescent, and I happen to believe that this happened all in the time span of maybe 2008, 2009. It was like the perfect middle area of being like a rebel against like what everyone else was doing in Yu-Gi-Oh, but also you weren't like a conformist with what's going on with Yu-Gi-Oh, where everyone was playing the same shit. It was this perfect middle area that I loved. It was at the end of GX and the beginning of 5Ds. So I hope that you guys will enjoy this video. Do not forget to like the video. 800 likes would be the goal. If you would like to see another video, obviously, if you would like to make my day, it's the holiday season. If you don't do it, I mean, work fascinates me. I can sit and watch it for hours. You see, it was harder for me to read that because obviously I'm illiterate. It's backwards, so from the camera, so it makes my life harder. So now, obviously, you're looking at my deck profile, and you're obviously probably saying, oh, that's not fair, what is he using banned cards for? Because in the time of 2008, these are the banned cards that I was allowed to use. So that's what the fuck you're gonna say. Alright, so starting up, I had my 3 Gen Warp Werewolves. I love Gen Warp Werewolf. He was the best 2000 beats deck I could ever ask for. He was amazing. Ancient Gear Golem, for me, Ancient Gear Golem was my signature monster as a kid. Everyone knew me for Ancient Gear Golem. Plus, at that time, I was too smart to realize that, you know, tribute monsters, especially 2 tribute monsters that required Ancient Gear Golem, were not something that I was always going to have on the field. So I said, you know, 1 level 8 being my signature is good enough. You don't need anything other than 1 level 8. Then I had Jinzo. Jinzo was obviously busted when I was younger. You know, you attack, you know, trap cards couldn't activate. There weren't any of these fancy monsters that would summon themselves like crazy. No, back in my day, you know, everything you have to normal summon or set. You wanted to get rid of Jinzo, you'd have to set Night of Sound with a Man-Eater Bug or Exiled Force. That's the only way you got rid of him. And then you had Caius. Caius came out, he was busted, he came on the field, took away something from my opponent for free, and he was still a 2,400 beast deck. Perfect. I couldn't say anything bad about him. Then I had Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon was one of those cards that I hated when I was younger, but I realized, I'm like, you know, I get to special summon a 2,100 beats deck, and I don't ever want to deny a good beats deck. But you basically summoned what? Hydrogeddon was my personal tech. Like, everyone that I knew had these monsters that would, like, destroy 1, summon 2, destroy this, summon another one. And it got to the point where I had such an annoying feeling towards these cards. Like, Nebomanga, fucking Mystic Tomato. Like, I hated those cards because they always kept summoning another one and another one, and they were like Pot of Avarice, and I was just like, I hate you people. But you see, for me, I had Hydrogeddon, so I was just like, okay, summon another, because I'll summon another too, and I'll bash into that one as well. But you see, Hydrogeddon, I thought Hydrogeddon was so good when I was a little kid, especially because I also played Shrink, and I would trick my opponent. I'd be like, okay, you attack me, all right, damage calc, Shrink, so now I get another one, and you lost your monster. I thought it was like one of the best combos that I thought of by myself. I was like, I did really go with that one. Then Breaker. Breaker was my favorite +1 and probably what led me to be a more serious Yu-Gi-Oh player down the road, because Breaker taught me a lot about the +1 mechanic, except for 1 card. 1 card takes the cake for that one. Then DD Warrior Lady. DD Warrior Lady was like another one of those problematic Jinzo removers. You actually needed to have her so she could deal with problematic cards, because this was before Synchros, XYZs, Pendulums, all those fancy mechanics. This was old school, and that Jinzo was a bitch, and you had to get rid of Jinzo no matter what. So DD Warrior Lady, she served her purpose. Then was Snipe Hunter. Snipe Hunter, to me, was a fun little tech. So Snipe Hunter was like, I guess, like my Bryonic at the time, my Bryonic Dragon of the Ice Barriers. I was just like, well, I kind of want to win, so Snipe Hunter, dump my whole hand, just, you know, get rid of my opponent's board, or at least try to get rid of my opponent's board, and that was my end game. But I like Snipe Hunter. He was fun. He was like one of those cards you never really ever see a card with dice or flipping a coin often. So Snipe Hunter really, like, he was cool. He was cool. It was a risk. It was a 1 in 3 chance, but he was fun. People question my old C for C deck and be like, what the fuck was that? It was card for card. The deck was built around costing my opponents cards that they didn't actually have to waste, like Breaker or fucking Don Zalug. And it was like, it was built on just like taking away a card here, taking away a card there, and it was basically like a control-based deck, and it was very fun, and I really liked it. So Don Zalug was really good at like picking a card out of my opponent's hand. I'm like, no, you don't need this. You don't need that either. Next goes to Phantom Skyblasters. Phantom Skyblaster became so reliable when it came to the tokens, and at the end of the day, I would sit on him, burn out my opponent with the little effect damage, and he was just good because I would always never summon him by himself. Like, I would always wait to have one more monster, then Skyblaster, then 2 tokens. Then if I waited long enough, they wouldn't know that Ancient Golem's coming. And when Ancient Golem's coming, then I did, like, as a kid, I was so corny because I did, like, the hand signs from Naruto for, like, Mechanized Melee. And then when you go Chidori, I would go Mechanized Melee. And then I'd, like, good times. Now Yu-Gi-Oh's gotten all stupid. Now it's fucking wrong when you jump over and hit your opponent. Now you go to jail. Alright, next is Exiled Force. Exiled Force took care of those Jinzo problems. The end. Sangan, I actually really learned everything about Yu-Gi-Oh! Through Sangan, because when I got Sangan as a kid, I said to myself, because somebody I knew basically said, here's Sangan, now if you want to get better in Yu-Gi-Oh! Put Sangan in and kind of realize as time goes on why you needed Sangan in the first place. And I was like, my deck's all 19 beats decks, like, how is this card going to help me? And then I said, oh, I get it. It gives me a card for free. Giving me cards for free is good. Oh. And Sangan, I thought was like, oh, okay, now I get like a free search out of nothing. But I mean, I really liked Sangan after that. Then comes to Card Trooper, and Card Trooper became a 19 beat stick. And if he became a 19 beat stick, it's a shame he wasn't going to stay like that. But, you know, that +1 mechanic was never a dull side. I always enjoyed that. Then, as for my 2 defenders, I had Marshmelon and Spirit Reaper. Marshmelon was probably the best staller back then, and Spirit Reaper embodied what my deck kind of did. It would basically pluck, hit my opponent, and then they lost a card in their hand, because if I wanted to be a little bit rebellious, I'd turn him into attack mode. I wouldn't worry about the damage. Put my opponent through damage. Alright, then from my staples back then, I had Heavy Storm. It was legal then. Then I had Shield Crush. Shield Crush, most of the time I played offensively, so where the fuck was my opponent in defense mode? Getting ready to take that dick. But you see, for me, at that point in time, everyone I knew either played Nobleman of Crossout or Shield Crush. I don't know. I like Shield Crush more because at that time, Nobleman of Crossout, I'm pretty sure, was not a nice looking rarity. I'm pretty sure it was just a dirty common. But Shield Crush was a secret, and it looked beautiful. Then I had one Lightning Vortex because Lightning Vortex was the Raigeki that we didn't have at the time, and that was pretty good. And then there was Monster Reborn. Bringing back any monster is always extremely handy. Brain Control back in the day was such a bitch because Brain Control was still legal, and Brain Control was that one. Brain Control was just like, boom, take your monster, boom, slam it to you. And now they gave it a fucking errata, and I'm like, what do you mean you can only take monsters that were normal summon? Then goes to Smashing Ground. I love Smashing Ground. Smashing Ground was so fucking fun. Love Smashing Ground. Then goes to MST. Back in the day, there was only one MST allowed, so that's the only MST I played. Then there were 2 Shrinks. I played 2 Shrinks. I'm shocked that at one point, I'm pretty sure at one point I switched it to 3, but for this point in time, I played like 2 Shrinks. So I played 2 Shrinks. The end. Then goes to one of my personal favorites, is Burden of the Mighty, because for me as a young kid, I loved the Seal of Orichalcos, but in 2008, 2009, the Seal of Orichalcos wasn't made yet, and because I was so in desperate need of having a card that was like the Seal of Orichalcos, I said, you know, I could either go with a field spell that kind of boosts a majority of my monsters, or should I go and just add a completely different card entirely? When I first saw Burden of the Mighty and Dimensional Prison, I loved them both because I said, wait a minute, if I cannot gain 500 attack points, I'll make my opponent lose 400 to 500 attack points. And you know what? It worked. It worked out very well, and I really liked Burden ever since because of that concept alone. Then for my trap cards, I played Mirror Force. Mirror Force was that one back then. It was busted as hell. Then I had one Torrential Tribute. You know, you summon more than I'm willing to deal with, destroy your shit. Then I played 2 D Prisons because D Prison was great. D Prison was, even back then, D Prison was really good because there weren't that many problematic monsters. But at the end of the day, D Prison was never bad. It was like, I don't want to deal with no monster up one lady. Get rid of that card permanently. Then there was Widespread Ruin. Widespread Ruin was my personal favorite because everyone at that time had Sakuretsu armor and almost nobody knew about Widespread Ruin. So Widespread Ruin was like, bam, destroy your best monster. And they were like, what the hell? Like, I had Sakuretsu armor. I'm like, oh, what a shame. Oh, my Widespread Ruin's a fucking platinum secret rare. You know, I was such a dick when I was younger. Then I played Cloning. Cloning is probably one of the worst cards that I used to play. But Cloning, I thought was so cool to just be like, oh, you summon that? Well, here's Cloning. I have it too. I don't know, there was something about it where I just found such like a uniqueness in that card, even though if the original monster leaves the field, so does your clone. But I always thought it was kind of cool because it always kind of put my opponent like in like this, you know, standstill, and I really like that. Then goes to Compulse. Compulse was just extremely handy. Loved Compulse. That's probably why I love Pleiades so much, because even back in 2008, I was bouncing shit back to my opponent's fucking hand. Then I played Fairy Box. Fairy Box was like my personal tech. Like Spidey had Ordeal of a Traveler, I had Fairy Box. I was like every single minute flipping a coin, flipping a coin. But you see, for me, I used to play Fairy Box, but I used to play Fairy Box and I used to play Mirror Wall, but I never used to play them together because it was too many life points for me. But for me, I loved Mirror Wall and I loved Fairy Box. But Fairy Box always was like, it always put my opponent at a disadvantage because they wouldn't want to attack me because they wouldn't want to take the risk. But by not taking the risk, they were already dead. Then I played Metal Reflect on because he was the best defender. I was basically Metal Reflect Slime, and they were just like, Fissure, and I'm like, okay, thank God that wasn't on my triple. And then lastly, I played one Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment was one of the very, you know, good cards to take care of almost anything they ever wanted, and then they put it to bed, and then I never seen Solemn Judgment ever again. So basically, this was the deck that I had as a kid, and I was basically, I want to say 17, 16, 15, 16, 15, 16, 17. And this deck just, it ran rampant. I was the king of the playground, and everyone knew that that kid played Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, and that kid was gonna grow up to be a Yu-Gi tuber that people were gonna laugh at. A bird's trying to interrupt me? Is that Spidey? I have to shave. I'm starting to look like a hobo. Or as like everyone else likes to call me, people say when I have like my full beard and my mustache, and people say I look like a gay lumberjack, so I don't want to look like that. So hope you guys all have a great day. Better tomorrow. I like fucking sexy. I'm a fucking sexy weird lunatic. Who wouldn't want to bang me? Well, alright, I'm done. Bye.